Today, Lewis and I are going to talk about some of the features that are built into Kingston's SSD that extend the life of an SSD. I think one of the #1 questions we still get when we're out in the field is, how long is the SSD going to last?
Yep.
And what we're finding is, different SSD manufacturers implement their endurance features in different manners. And today, Lewis and I are going to talk about how we do it here at Kingston. And DuraWrite is the technology that we use internally on our drives to extend the life of the SSD.
Yeah, I mean, DuraWrite, right? I mean, one of the things we're finding out is, most of the data that we deal with, right, day in and day out, is very compressible, right? I think early on, when MLC NAND was in its 10K and then 5K range, you didn't have to worry about things like that. But we're down to 3K product now, right? 3,000 program array cycles, and so that is going to shorten, the total life of the SSD. One of the ways to lengthen that essentially is to compress that data. So we have a compression engine, right, built on our SSD that will compress data on the fly. So it's kind of twofold. You get more performance right out of it, because if the data is compressible and I'm going to write half the amount, then my writes are going to speed up twice as much. But even more important, it's a way to extend NAND life, right? If, again, with typical MLC NAND at 3000P cycle, if I can reduce the amount of writes to that, I can turn that into virtually a 5K NAND product, essentially, right? And so we're offering that to our customers now. So DuraWrite to me is all about being able to compress that workload and minimize flash writes. The performance thing is kind of like a byproduct almost.
A side effect. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So essentially what you're saying is we're actually writing less to the SSD than what's coming from the host.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, like I said, we're talking about the difference between, kind of host writes and flash writes, right? So maybe during a file copy, Windows thinks that I sent 10 gigs to the drive. If that data is very compressible, we effectively could write 5 gigs to the drive instead, essentially kind of doubling that NAND life. And so, yeah, again, I think it's a really big deal. Again, we talked about it as lithography continues to shrink, and next year we're talking about TLC, right? At 2K and 1K PE cycle, compression is going to be huge, and I think that's where DuraWrite's really, really nice. The nice thing, I think that the greatest thing about it is not many controller guys can do it, and our SSDs are making that happen. Oh yeah.
Because of the way NAND writes to the flash itself, we actually increase the number of writes due to how we have to write to a block.
I mean, essentially, right, like I said, if I can compress those writes, right, on my own desktop, right, and it's typical email, browsing the web, the stuff that we do in the office, my WAF for write amplification factor is less than 1. So I'm actually, most of the data that I deal with in a day is very compressible. Now, that varies from, from customer to customer. Guys that are working in video and photography, things like that, the Photoshop guys, they may have a little bit, there might be, the data might be a little less compressible, but I would say day in and day out, the average consumer, yeah, it is. And even on the enterprise side, what we're seeing is databases and things like that, a lot of that is very compressible. So it doesn't help just the average user at home, but I would say in the enterprise and data center also. I think compression is huge at this point.
Okay, and you also mentioned performance, that DuraWrite kind of has a side effect of increasing performance. Is that because we're writing less to the drive?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I said, if I'm sending 10 gigs worth of whatever stuff, right, to the drive, and I can compress that into 5 gigs,
we're writing less, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm effectively writing less and doubling the write speed. So
okay.
It's a nice deal. I mean, DuraWrite to me is kind of, again, extending NAND life first, performance kind of second, but it is a nice byproduct. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.